Alright, we're recording.
Look, you got a bottle of Captain Morgan?
Hello again.
No, it's a bottle of Sailor Jerry.
I'm glad we got that cleared up out of the way. Anyways,
Captain Morgan's awkward color.
I made a game. It's called Curvaceous. And it feels smooth to begin with because everything follows this really smooth feeling sine wave, and it's just great. It involves anywhere but the ground because there's no ground anywhere. It's closer to space probably. Everything's black and it's just terrifying. It involves a rise and a fall, very literally, because one of the players, it's a two-player game, one of the players goes up and down and up and down and up and down. It involves the grind because, as with many games, the players really have to actually literally grind on the buttons and stuff. They're button mashing, so that's the grind. It involves a quest because you're trying to get the most points. It involves an unwitting pawn because you as the player are actually being duped when you think you're playing this game. It's actually something entirely different. It involves humans versus machines because you're trying to beat the game. It involves polar opposites because the two players actually have to perform polar opposite functions. One of them has to time it very slowly and carefully, and the other one just has to hit it as fast as it can, and then it switches again. It involves empower because we made a larger group and we're going to use this card. It regards ambition because you're trying to get the highest score, and so you better be ambitious. It includes a harbinger of doom because we have a countdown, and when the countdown runs up, then doom will come to land and the game will end. It involves an affair because, unbeknownst to most players when they first play it, this is actually a very sensual game with their fingers. And so if you're playing it with a friend, this may result in an affair. It's something completely different because a game like this, as far as I know, doesn't really exist anywhere else. It involves a misunderstanding because the players don't understand that the game they're playing is actually very, very sensual. It involves a sight gag because when they figure it out, they'll realize that all these abstract things mean something completely different. It involves a split personality because each player has to perform different functions, even though they're on the same screen and sort of connected. It's about sex and money because that's actually what the game is about. The money being the score, and sex being the activity that's abstractly being performed. It regards absurdity ascendant because as you're starting to figure this stuff all out, it just becomes more and more absurd. It involves a twist because you don't see this coming, and then that's the twist. It involves diligence because you got to try really hard in order to get a good score on the game. It is the game that plays you because you're playing this game and then all of a sudden it tricks you and you're like, oh man! It involves a flock because we have particle systems and they're like a flock of birds, and it's really great. It regards a partnership because two players have to work together. It involves a father figure because during this game one of the players has to be the guy, and so he could become a father figure if he's not careful. It includes coins because there's these little bubbles in the particle systems, and each bubble's worth 1 point when you hit it, and so they're like coins. It's great. It involves a public it involves a public performance because we demoed this game in front of Peter Brinson's class, and you're playing it with friends. It also involves a visual metaphor because it's an abstract representation of something completely different. It involves a reversal because the player's roles will reverse halfway through the game. It involves a bait and switch because we dupe the player. It involves a disgusting concept because players think they're playing something very innocent when in fact they are not. It is about or involving love for reasons I've already explained. It has the archetype of the phoenix because if you get a really low score, it'll become easier for you and then you can really jump your score back up. It involves a train because there's this sine wave that brings stuff along, and it's like a train, so you move along it. It involves a turf war because you have to slam this button down when there's certain sections, and so you're fighting over this turf thing and you're hitting it. It involves nervous laughter because if the players do figure it out, they're probably going to feel pretty nervous about themselves. It regards pride because we're going to hurt your pride while you're playing this game. It involves lost in a strange land because the world around you is not like anything else. It's too abstract to connect it to reality. It involves emotional disconnection because your emotions are being toyed with, and at first you're thinking something and then you get more invested, or maybe you get less invested. It regards artificial intelligence because the game changes difficulty, and so it has its own sort of AI. It involves moral anxiety because all of a sudden you're questioning if you should be playing this game or not. It involves an evil twin because you have two players and they're performing these opposite functions, so they're kind of like evil twins to each other. It is a few against the world because there's a high score type thing, and so the two players who are playing are trying to beat everyone else's high score, and so they're the two against everyone else. And it includes a symbol of hope, because there is the score that shows up, and that score tells you how much points you have, and that's your symbol of hope. Isn't it great?